And by the time you hit that number has already moved. That's the thing you need to understand about saving for your escape plan. The target keeps moving, and it moves faster than you can save. You've been told your whole life, save more, spend less, hit the number, then you're free. But there are 4 separate forces working against that number right now, simultaneously, quietly, and most people have no idea what these 4 things are. But if this is even the slightest bit interesting, hang tight, we're going in. But first, I'm Emerald. I'm the founder of Relocate with Revenue. Here, we help individuals and families relocate with revenue. We are not a job finding agency. We're not a travel vlog channel. We actively work with individuals to build AI systems that enable you to generate revenue streams to fund your location independent lifestyle. If you are new here, welcome. We're happy to have you. If you're a returning subscriber, make our guests comfortable by sharing your comment on this video. Your input goes a long way. So yeah, this channel is called Relocate with Revenue because it is in part that thing that people take for granted when they consider moving abroad. Hence, the whole premise is simple. Income first, freedom always. If that sounds like your language, hit the subscribe button now because this is just the beginning of what we're covering this month. Now, without any further ado, let's get into it. Let me give you the macro picture first because you need to see the 4 ways that your savings are bleeding out right now. Because until you see that clearly, the solution won't make sense. The first one is inflation. The second is currency conversion. The third is dollar erosion. And the fourth, well, nobody talks about it because it is not viewed as a bleed, but it is the cost of waiting. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how these 4 forces are working against your savings right now and what the people who figured this out are doing instead. Stay with me because this is the video I wish someone had put in front of me before I spent years saving for that number while the system was quietly moving. The US dollar has lost roughly 25% of its purchasing power since 2020. This is not me coming up with clickbait. This is a fact. The groceries, the rent, the cost of building a life anywhere, not just in the West, are at least 25% more expensive than 5 years ago. So let me show you exactly where it's going. Budget that you've ever made for your retirement, your freedom number, your when I hit X, I will be free target was made based on yesterday's buying power, not today's dollars, and certainly not tomorrow's. The average American savings rate is around 1 to 3%. Inflation, despite of what the CPI index says, is actually running between 4 and 8% depending on the items, and that has been in recent years. So do the math. The system is structurally designed for your savings to lose ground, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're playing a game where the codes are constantly being rewritten. 100,000 saved in 2020 was the effective buying power of roughly 75,000 today. You didn't lose $25,000. It was taken from you quietly, incrementally. It's still showing as $100,000 in your account, but convert that into tangible asset or money that you have to live off of, and you will see what you're buying is less. That is bleed point number 1. And it's happening whether you are paying attention to it or not. Understand this. I'm not talking about what happens when you move abroad. I am talking about what is happening to your money right now, today, regardless if you leave or not. When you hear on the news that the dollar has lost value or that the pound is down or the Canadian dollar is weakening, most people nod and move on. Because it feels abstract. It feels like a number on a screen that has nothing to do with their life. But here is what it actually means. Your savings account is denominated in that currency. Every dollar, every pound, every Canadian dollar sitting in that account is priced in a currency that is losing its purchasing power relative to the rest of the world. You are not just saving money. You're saving a unit of measurement that is shrinking. Okay, think about it this way. Imagine you spend years filling a container with water. You are disciplined. You add to it every single month. You protect it. But the container has a slow leak, not at the bottom where you can see it, but on the walls. And the water level keeps dropping very slowly, but it keeps dropping no matter how much you add. That is currency devaluation. That is what currency devaluation does to your savings. The container is leaking, and the news is telling you that the container is leaking, but it is not telling you how. The US dollar has lost value over the last year. The British pound has lost significant ground against other major global currencies over the past decade. The Canadian dollar has weakened. The Australian dollar has weakened. For savers in these countries, the purchasing power of what they have accumulated has quietly contracted, not because they spend it, but because the unit they save in has become worth less. Not worthless, but worth less. That is bleed point number 2. Your savings are not just sitting. It's sitting and its conversion power is less. Now, I can go on about what central banks around the world are doing, what they hold in their reserve, what the IMF tracks, that the dollar share of global reserve has fallen below 57%, which is the 31-year low. But I'm going to forgo all of that. And I'm going to give you an analogy that you can hold on to. Imagine your savings is a share in a company, not a product, a share. The company is called the US dollar. And for decades, that company has the most trusted, or was the most trusted, most widely held, most in-demand asset on earth. Every central bank, every government, every major financial institution wanted to hold shares in it. That demand is what gave your dollar its power. Now imagine that slowly, not dramatically, not with a press release or with a crash, the largest shareholders in that company started quietly selling. Not panic selling, strategically selling, diversifying into other assets, gold, other currencies, alternative reserves, not because the company collapsed, but because they saw or are seeing something on the horizon and decided to reposition before it arrives. That is exactly what is happening right now with the dollar. And your savings account is a share in that company. And here is the part that I think you should pay attention to. Central banks are the most conservative financial institution on earth. They do not speculate. They do not chase trends. They move slowly, deliberately, methodically, and they put a lot of research behind every single decision. So when the most conservative money managers on the planet starts repositioning, they're not reacting to a crisis. They're preparing for one. The question is not whether this is happening. The data confirms that it is. The question is, will you just watch it happen to your savings, or will you reposition before the window closes? Because the dollar sitting still in your savings account are not neutral. Neutral does not exist in the currency world. Sitting still is a meditation position, not a currency one. Bleed point number 4 is different from the first 3. The first 3 are systemic. This one is personal. We're taught, all of us, that accumulation is the goal. Save more, spend less, protect the number, protect the bottom line. And somewhere in that teaching, savings stopped being a tool and started becoming a destination. But hoarding is a thief, not just of money, of time, of choices, of the version of your life that was already possible, but that you kept postponing until the number felt safe enough. Now, if no one else has said this to you, I want to tell you this about the number. It will never be enough. It will never feel safe enough, because the system that created the number also created the anxiety around the number. And that anxiety is not a signal that you need more. It is a signal that you have been misled, that you have been playing the wrong game. Savings was never meant to be the plan. Savings was meant to be the launch pad, the engine thruster just before takeoff, the runway, the bridge between where you are and where you want your revenue to take over, where you want to get to. I hope that you're picking up what I'm dropping here, because the plan was always supposed to be revenue. Savings is the bridge to get you there. And if you've been sitting on savings, waiting for certainty, I want to show you something. Give me a second. I want to show you 3 currency windows, 3 real places, 3 real numbers, and what they tell you about the differences between move-in and wait-in. Between 2022 and early 2024, $1 bought approximately 160 to 163 Kenyan shillings. That was a geo-arbitrage window, a moment where the dollar's purchasing power in Kenya was exceptional. Rent, food, transportation, and healthcare, everything denominated in shillings was significantly discounted to your US dollar income. That window has since tightened. Today in 2026, the rate sits at around 129 shillings to the $1. That window contracted by roughly 15%. And now here's the part that matters. The people who moved to Nairobi during that window, they signed leases, bought homes, built businesses, invested in real estate. They established their structure at the peak leverage period. The people who waited for certainty are now looking at a 15% more expensive entry point. And the window keeps moving. In 2023, the US dollar reached nearly 4,972 Colombian pesos at the peak. $1, nearly 5,000 Colombian pesos. For anyone living on a dollar-denominated income in Medellin during that period, the cost of living was discounted. The rate now sits at 3,700 pesos to $1. The contraction again is roughly 25% from the peak. Same pattern, window open, window tightens, and the movers are in. Now let's take a look at Mexico. As recently as November 2025, $1 bought almost 19 Mexican pesos. Today, it's approximately 17. Still a strong geo-arbitrage location, but down from the peak. The same trajectory, 3 different countries. 3 different currencies, 1 identical pattern. Window open and window starts to close. The people who waited for certainty are now watching from the outside. Now, let me say this. This is not about moving to a cheap country. This is about understanding that your dollar has leverage right now, and that leverage has a shelf life. Savings sitting in a bank account does not give you that leverage. Savings deployed through a revenue-first relocation strategy gives you that leverage. That is the difference. And that is what this whole video is about in one sentence. So here's the question that this video is really asking. Not, should I move? That is not the question. The question is, do you understand the power of leveraging your savings as a destination and using revenue as a strategy? Because if you are starting to see that gap, if something in the last 12 minutes has made your current plan feel less solid than it did this morning, that is not anxiety. That is clarity. And clarity is exactly where the digital blueprint lives. It's 82 pages, 5 modules. It focuses on the income first framework, relocation readiness, business structure for your location independent business, cross-border personal and health insurance, and a personal readiness score that tells you exactly where you are in the process, not where you think you are. The blueprint also comes with the Blueprint Mirror AI tool. That is a plugin for your AI of choice. You upload it into ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whichever AI of choice, and you run your relocation strategy questions. through it. Now, I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money. I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not professing to be one. But I will say this. If you're thinking slightly in the least bit about relocating and leaving your money sitting in a savings account, I'm just saying you might want to consider leveraging that in a geo-arbitrage friendly location where your money can build, where your money can actually do what it's supposed to do, and that is expand, that is compound, that is multiply. That's what we want to see here at Relocate with Revenue. So you don't have to be ready to move tomorrow. You just have to be ready to stop letting the windows close while you wait for certainty. If this video shifted something for you, drop it in the comment. Tell me which one of the 4 bleeds hits the hardest, or that you didn't think about in such manner prior to this video. I'm just curious. Your feedback is important. Again, if you haven't not subscribed as yet, please do so and hit the notification bell, because in the next one, we're going to be talking about the best countries for digital nomads and for location independent business owners that can take advantage of the zero tax plague. You'll want to be here for that one. See you in the next one. Peace.